volume of numbers to join us, but I think I'll give the introduction. It's better to start it. And very much welcome you all to today's session on Optimised Retrofit, Recruit, Train and Equip the Welsh construction sector. I'm Kat Griffith-Williams. I'm the CEO of Constructing Excellence in Wales, and we're actually really delighted to be a part of the Optimised Retrofit Consortium in Wales. I'm your chair of today's seminar. The event is being recorded and we'll also distribute the slides of the presenters following the event to all attendees. So what we're looking at today, in order for the Welsh Government's 13 million Optimised Retrofit programme to succeed, we need to recruit, train and equip the Welsh construction sector so it can successfully decarbonise the first 1,800 Pathfinder homes. But this is only the start of what will be a huge and vital undertaking led by the Welsh construction sector, involving small builders, plumbers, electricians, builders merchants and their suppliers. Like I've said, this is the beginning of a huge programme of work, starting in social housing, but it's intended to widen into all types of housing and create business opportunities for the next 30 years or so. Our speakers are from the Optimised Retrofit Consortium, and they'll be explaining why decarbonising Welsh homes is so important, what it means in practice, why it is so good, and how you can actually get involved. We're going to be hearing from Alan Watkins, the Innovation Manager for Zero, who will be setting out the Optimised Retrofit programme. Wyn Pritchard is the Director of Construction Skills and Business Strategy at NPTC Group, and he'll be explaining the skills and training that are needed to get the jobs done. Glenn Finch is an associate from Art Consultancy, and he's going to explain how to become involved. And we have Paul Gibson, Director of Gibson STS Limited, talking us through what it actually means for an SME. Like I said, this is a really exciting and groundbreaking project, but it's your chance to play a leading role. So let's find out more, and we'll go over to Alan Watkins, who will talk us through setting us out the Optimised Retrofit programme and give us a background on this. Over to you, Alan.
Sorry, I knew I was going to do that before I did it. Yeah, so as was just said there, I work for Zero. We are running the Welsh Government's Optimised Retrofit programme on their behalf. It's a large collaboration, so I'll run you quickly through it and then take any questions at the end. So next slide, please. So the background, what are the burning questions? Why are we doing this? What is Optimised Retrofit? So firstly, you'll have heard about the climate emergency. What is a climate emergency? It's government acceptance that climate change from human activity, which is a key point, such as emitting carbon dioxide from burning fossil fuels, does actually exist, and that measures that have been undertaken in the past to try and limit it are insufficient. So that's a key point. Previous measures are insufficient, so we have to do more. What's the Welsh Government's view on this? Well, officially, the climate emergency was declared in 2019. That was largely in line with other nations, but that was also building upon some previous measures that have been put in place, specifically in Wales, so somewhere where in this country we are a little bit ahead of the game. So that's things like the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act in 2015 and that kind of thing. Now, recently, Welsh Government has committed to reaching net zero by 2050, but there's aspirations to reach that target sooner, which and significant funding will be in place to help achieve that. So you probably heard the phrase net zero bandied about quite a lot recently as well. So what is that? In simple terms, that is restoring the balance between the carbon dioxide that's emitted into the atmosphere and that is taken out of it by natural processes. So the carbon cycle is a natural thing. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, and plants do the opposite. So there is a balance there, but at the moment it's way off balance, and that's the problem. That's why it's causing uncontrolled climate change, and that's the bigger picture. That's what we're trying to solve here. So next slide, please. So why are we retrofitting homes as part of this problem? Well, 40% of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions that is, are from buildings. Half of those come during construction, what's called embodied carbon. but the other half are caused by the way we occupy buildings, the way we power our buildings. So that's heating, hot water, cooking, lighting, and everything we use in the home. Of those, that list there is broadly speaking in order. Heating is massively, by far, the biggest issue, and that's followed a distant second by the production of hot water. You probably have heard a lot about electrification going on, not just in homes, but also in transport and other areas. So specifically in homes, gas is likely to be phased out from homes because there's no getting around it. It involves carbon emissions at the point of use. It's not remotely, it's not at power stations or anywhere like that. It's actually at the boiler, it comes out the flue. Electricity production is gradually being decarbonised as well. So that's expanding the use of renewables in place of coal and gas. So that's large-scale wind generation and increasingly large-scale solar as well. And then there's obviously the micro generation, which is at individual home level. So that's photovoltaic solar panels on roofs, that kind of thing. The new build regulations are increasingly being tightened. Modern homes, new built homes are better insulated and have lots of energy efficient technologies that are being built in. However, that's the easy part. The fact is that 80% of the buildings that we will be occupying in 2050 have already been built. So it's a much more difficult technical challenge to bring those down to net zero, but it's one that we have to take on. There's a lot of work to do there, but this is still the early days of tackling that. So next slide, please. So what does this mean for homes in Wales? Well, the Optimised Retrofit programme is part of the Welsh Government's response to the climate emergency. Sero have been deeply involved in conversations for some time with Welsh Government about the best way to approach retrofit, and this is the first year it's been actively funded as part of the innovative housing programme. So the optimised part of the title refers to the fact that each home is different. So each one will need to be upgraded in the best possible way for that home. In the past, there's been approaches such as external wall insulation, window upgrades, a lot of envelope schemes, that kind of thing, where it's been very much led by the measure. So some grant funding has been put forward to undertake something to lots of homes. Well, that's not necessarily the best thing to do for all of those homes. Some homes are more suited to certain measures than others. Some would suit photovoltaics, for example. Some would suit external wall insulation, new windows. But there's risks of unintended consequences if it's not done appropriately. We can cause problems with moisture, with mold, and that kind of thing within homes that are inappropriately insulated, for example. So it's all about taking a home by home approach and looking at each individual building, each individual home, and doing the best we possibly can to decarbonise and move towards net zero for that home. So this year, 2021, we have got the first 1,724 social homes have been identified across Wales, and the Welsh Government has provided £16.5 million worth of funding to undertake measures to those homes. There have been further funds committed by 27 housing associations. So it's a collaboration of, at the moment, 27 registered social landlords who have also committed funds. So the £16.5 million, that's part of the funding, but it's not all of it. At least the same again has been committed by the property owners in the shape of the housing associations. So that's just that's the thin end of the wedge. In years to come, there's 1.43 million homes across Wales, which are a combination of privately rented, privately owned homes, as well as the social rented sector. So all of those will be at some stage able to access funding through government and also various private funding initiatives that are in the early stages. So this is all still being worked out exactly how it will work, but there's no doubt that all of those homes will be need to be addressed in the next decade or two, and that there will be plenty of funding put in place to enable that. So next slide, please. In terms of the nuts and bolts of how to actually approach each individual home, there's broadly speaking, it's a three-part approach. As you see there, it's reduce, balance, and generate. Now that's in order of priority. The first starting point is a fabric first approach. That's another phrase you may have heard. It's better to reduce the energy needs of our homes and rather than look to try and generate more energy renewably. It's a little bit of it's a huge ask to generate enough renewable energy to power our homes as they are. So the starting point is to reduce the energy requirements. So each and every home will have a whole home survey undertaken and a pathway to zero using government funded apps. So they are survey tools and design tools that have been developed by Cero for and funded by the government. They are free issue to housing associations, property owners, and that is already underway. The 1,724 homes that I mentioned on the previous slide, they are already being surveyed, and the pathway to zero for each one is being set out. So they will then enable the best, most appropriate decarbonisation measures, the best collection of measures to be specified for each individual home. And that over time will reduce the energy requirements of each home by upgrading the fabric at the optimal time. So what that means, it's quite important to how this whole concept is going to work. There's no point in throwing the baby out with the bathwater and throwing away, for example, perfectly good windows or boilers that still have several years, 5 to 10 years perhaps, of efficient working life left. There's obviously the energy that's gone into creating them and manufacturing the various elements that we don't want to waste, and there's also the cost. There's enough retrofit measures out there to deliver that no one's going to go, and no one in this area is going to be sitting around waiting for quite some time. So there's no point in taking out perfectly good windows, boilers, etc. That still have an efficient working life left in them when we can start off with the ones that have already come to the end of their life. So part of the process will be mapping out and programming the most effective order to undertake these works and the best time to do them. So there will be a plan in place. And then ultimately what that will lead to is a prediction of when each home will be able to achieve net zero over time. This isn't, you could go and just do some homes and do them beginning to end and completely retrofit them as a sort of one-off project, but that's an expensive way to go, and it means there will be a lot of wasted materials, wasted energy. So yeah, in terms of social housing, that means integrating the plan within planned maintenance programs that are already in place, in terms of window replacement, roof replacement, that kind of thing. And yeah, in terms of private housing, it's making plans for the best time to undertake these measures. So that's the first point, reducing the energy needs. Second point is balancing. Smart meters have been around for a few years, and they are available to every home who requests one. But yeah, they're very important in terms of monitoring real-time energy demand rather than estimated demand that the grid currently uses. That enables the national grid to actually predict exactly when and how much energy is required. So there's not the need to have a kind of baseline capacity that's difficult to achieve with things like wind and solar, which are obviously very weather dependent. Another part of the whole home approach is to install an intelligent energy system, or IES, within each home. which will monitor and help control the heating and hot water to make sure that that it's optimized for maximum efficiency. And another important element of balancing energy needs is storage. That could be batteries. A lot of photovoltaic solar panels are now installed with batteries as part of the same install. But historically, I mean, going back, let's say historically, it's not that long ago, but going back to sort of 5-10 years to when photovoltaics were first being installed, battery technology wasn't really around. It is now. Hot water tanks are also a method of energy storage. So at an individual home level, they can be used to, the big picture is that it's storing wind and solar energy for later use. So it's being purchased when it's available and when it's potentially cheaper, and the energy is being stored for use in the home at a later time. So it's time shifting that demand and supply so they match up better. And the third element of the priorities is the generation of energy. So that's actual photovoltaics on site for individual homes or for community, for sort of neighbourhood schemes. So, for example, there you may have a neighbourhood where only some of the buildings have south-facing roofs, but there is the technology available to share that throughout the neighbourhood, so it doesn't lead to kind of unequal benefits from the programme. There is the ability to share. And going back to electrification, heat pumps are going to be a large part of the answer. Whether they belong in generation or reduction is perhaps something that we could discuss. But either way, they will make electric heating more affordable. At the moment, electricity and using electricity for direct electric radiators, etc., and for hot water provision is much more expensive because electricity is more expensive than gas. That may change over time. However, heat pumps extract a lot more heat out of the same amount of energy rather than using it as direct electricity. So that's a broad, quick run through the Optimised Retrofit programme. There's an awful lot of moving parts to it. It's a large collaboration already, and it's only going to get larger. So I'll leave it up to the others now to give you a little more detail about how exactly things will fall into place. But yeah, happy to take questions at the end. And if there's a couple of email addresses there on the slide, so if you wanted to drop any more questions at all, you can by all means drop an email to one of those addresses, and we'll address them there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan. That's great. Just bear in mind, I didn't mention the Q&A at the end, so there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So please do drop any questions that you have in the chat box, and then we'll field those to the presenters following their presentations. We'll also have a holding slide as well to give you all the contact details. Like we've reiterated, this is really your chance to get involved, and there will be an opportunity to email the speakers or ask any questions as well following the event. So let's hear from Wyn Pritchard next. Thank you, Wyn.
Thank you, Kat. Good afternoon, Pnawn da, everybody. If you move to the first slide, Susan, please, implication of skills. You have my introduction as Director of Construction Skills and Business Strategy at MPTC Group. But the more important role I'm here for today, really, I chair the Training and Skills Group for the Optimised Retrofit programme, and I also is a board member of the group as well. There's been a lot of noise about skills and what green skills look like and what retrofit skills looks like. Lots of research going on about in terms of jobs creation, what the need is in terms of companies to actually be part of the project. Those sort of things are out there at the moment. But what I tried to do today from the previous presentations, try and break it down a little bit more to make it a lot more user-friendly and a lot more fitting into your implications for you as companies in Wales and how you can link in. In terms of the implications for skills, the main one really is going to be behavioural and cultural changes. I think we're all aware, as Alan said rightly, the changes in terms of environment, the climate, the world agenda regarding green all the jobs that are in construction at the moment require higher levels of green building awareness. That's from new entrants and even school pupils to existing workers, and the existing workers go all the way up to MDs and professionals within the companies. And it is about understanding the new technologies, is understanding how you build green. To a point, I can see green units being put into apprenticeship programs as things move forward. In terms of skills, again, there's been a lot of talk about, well, how much more skills do I need to learn? In a lot of cases, for the initial phase, a number of you have been through changes in terms of construction, in terms of the need to update your skills, modernize your skills, learn new installation methods. A lot of this is still about updating existing skills to take account of the new technologies coming forward. We talked about heat pumps, we talked about biomass. All these technologies are very much similar in terms of fitting, but you will need to know the wider implications of the specific technologies involved and perhaps quirkiness of some in terms of where they fit. The new one, and this is where we argue whether new jobs are going to be created and sustaining existing jobs, will be in specialist skills. There will be, without doubt, significant changes in roles, especially in the professional architecture side and the engineering side, the design side, the measurement side in terms of assessment of buildings, in terms of energy performance. And the big thing as well, if we look at this and the changes the sector's going through, the new innovations are coming forward. And more than likely, since I've been chair of the training group, I've only had 30, 40 communications of new products, from robotics to machines that put plaster on walls, the use of drones, all looking at terms of where the industry needs to move through. And obviously we've got modern methods of construction, which include modular and offsite, as well as digital construction, which we all know about in terms of BIM and other things. Susan, next slide, please. So what is the actual demand? The majority of skills demand really is going to be limited to adaptations. And what I said earlier on, it is not major tweaking of your roles, but minor tweaking of your understanding through mentorship and possibly through programs that the ORP will actually deliver in terms of new skills. So the new skills will be there, but not as predominantly as some people perhaps feel it could be. You know, the research seems to suggest that, and this is where a lot of work has been done in Scotland, that 1 in 5 jobs will be affected by net zero. And that means there will be tweaking to the jobs or perhaps major reconstruction of the jobs, depending on where they are. And with 1 in 10 jobs needing major skills updating. So that means 9 jobs need just tweaking and more than likely linking to where you need to go. Most of the training needed in traditional construction will be relatively small scale. It will be things that you as in companies have done over the years. You've adapted, you've changed, you moved with the times to thinking. Where there will be change, it will be change over time in terms of the apprenticeship programs and people entering the sector. The expectation may be different. The actual openings, I think, in terms of career prospects and the image the construction sector and the building engineering sector has had over the years is dramatically going to change, I think, in terms of, I know from students at the college, awareness of green issues are more keen to get involved in the sector because of the difference it now makes and the difference it's going to make to the planet. Obviously, new technology and specialist fit out will require more intensive training. And I think if you look at that, that is where potentially new job roles that are not even being thought of yet will emerge. And those will be the development areas that we need to look at in terms of really cranking up the skill set. But predominantly, most of the skills, as I said, will be tweaking. They will be actually adaptations of jobs and actually moving that into that agenda. Next slide, please. So what are we doing? What is the group that I chair in terms of training and skills? I'm very, very fortunate that we have got a really broad cross-section of key organisations in Wales and across the UK who are feeding in We had our meeting this morning, in actual fact, and we've got people like Moby who are involved in terms of some of the education work and some of the schools work they do, which is excellent. CEDA that are doing stuff in home technology, that is smart technology, which is again enhancing the project roles. We're involved with fit out and interior services. We're involved with the MCS that are looking at the standards, working with BESA, building engineering services, who are actually trying to deliver new skills in heat pumps. So a lot of the work is being done, and we're mapping that very carefully. And two of the key bits of work are looking at what is a skill set currently for a construction plasterer, and what additional units do they need to work in zero carbon. And those are the exercises we are going through now to map those skills. We've got three subgroups running off this, which is vital. And the most vital part is the SMEs, actually engaging with the employers who are out there and will be targeted to do this work. It is key we understand, A, what their needs are, what their requirements are, how the training needs to be delivered effectively to let them have the best opportunity to do that. So people who are on the call today, it will be key that you keep communicating with us how you need these courses and how you feel you can engage in terms of training. As I said, BESA are running and chairing for me the technology development, and that is looking at the new technologies that are coming forward, what the implications are for skills and development, how we deliver those skills for you, how we run showcases for showing you the technology, and how that works in practice in a real life setting of a project. The final one is Colegau Cymru, which again is a vital element. Colegau Cymru are the group of work-based learning providers who deliver apprenticeships and training programs. And those are the people that are funded by Welsh Government. So it is key to influence that training and skills to fit within a wider engagement of the skills profile and the skills development, and key to link in there. We are fortunate as well that we have been involved in the Green Apprenticeship Advisory Panel. And they are looking at working with the government in England in terms of BEIS, looking at what apprenticeships across wider than just zero carbon need to be greened. They are looking at energy, they're looking at battery technology, electric vehicles, and carbon zero construction. But within that, they are looking at communities and what is needed in terms of community design, where are the activities based, the travel to work distances, the way we live our lives and the way we change things. So that is something that is key and will be very, very useful in terms of the work we're going through. And finally, I touched a little bit again, we're also looking at the emerging green jobs. What are they? What do they look like? What scope is there for the existing workforce to go into those green jobs? How do apprenticeship programs need to be changed? How do the training and skills agenda need to be changed to meet that? This can only be done in terms of the colleges learning through the skill sets that are being developed by the colleges and the work-based learning providers. But most important is that it is going to be a partnership between industry and academia. If we do not do that effectively, the training will not be up to the standard that you need as an industry. So we need to pick that up very urgently in terms of where we fit. On the final slide, please, Susan. And some final thoughts from me. There is no doubt about it. The sector is changing. I think this is the evolution of a new green, zero sustainable construction industry and building engineering side. And I think this will be major impact for SMEs over time, that this will change and be the way we will do business more than likely long after my days in the next 10 to 20 years. That will be a big focus. The key is we need to deliver the skills base with you. We can't do it on our own. We need you as SMEs to lead us on that, and by delivering competence together and accessing quality training and delivering quality, we can do that. We also need to deliver access to all. And what I mean by that is obviously colleges courses, and a number of courses that have been done are college based, that sit in an office or sit in there. Now that has changed obviously because of COVID, the digital tools, what we are doing now in terms of Zoom and Team links. There's a lot more online learning, but we need to have the engagement, make sure that training is delivering certifications and more importantly, links into the procurement requirements and the client requirements of any contract going forward. And I think the final message, and I think again, it's to perhaps dispel some rumours, some fears and anything else there. This is not a revolution by any way. It is an evolution. It's a natural evolution I think the sector's gone through in the past. So working with you, we will deliver this for you a betterment and the betterment of Wales and the betterment of housing and beyond, and bring a new career set into the industry, which is key. And we are here to support. We can't do it on our own. We need your engagement and look forward to working with you and developing these skills to maximise the opportunity. Thank you for your time. Diolch yn fawr.
That's fabulous, Wyn. Thank you. Like I said, we will take Q&As following the presentations. I have got a quick question to you, Wyn. When we're looking at the upskilling, and I appreciate you're reaching out to SMEs to get that intelligence, just so it'll inform what you're doing going forward. But after mapping the skills, what is the timeline of identifying the additional units to inform the courses and training that needs to happen? How long do you think that is going to take us?
There is mapping, good question, Kat. There is mapping already in place with the Construction Leadership Council and some work Skills Development Scotland have done, which really we are going to proofread in the next training skills group, which is next month. I would think realistically, given the engagement we have to have with colleges and the work-based training providers, realistically by September, we should get some units that are out there that at least can fast track people who are nearest to the marketplace at the moment, might be the best way of putting it. In terms of the wider apprenticeships, and people on this call will realise that sometimes it can take 2 years to get a new apprenticeship programme. So there will be units of accreditation, which may be very short courses, may be very much manufacturing based and may not be academic. So it could be manufacturers, Worcester Bosch or others could be running courses on heat pumps that are suitable accreditations. But we need to build around that a matrix that means it is delivering competence, which is key.
Exactly. Okay, thanks, Wyn. Without further ado, we'll go over to Glenn Finch, the Associate of Art Consultancy. So over to you, Glenn.
Thanks for that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Susan, could you put it on the next slide, please? So CHIC have been commissioned to set up and run the procurement exercise so that we can get installers, contractors, project support staff and merchants involved in delivering this. One of the big elements of this project is to grow the capacity of SMEs and micro SMEs. And one of the aims of this is that we will hopefully get lots of people on board over the next few months with the intention that people can grow as their skills and capacity grow. So we are expecting that initially we may have lots of oven ready companies who can do this work, but the expectation will be that those companies will bring along the supply chain and subcontractors so that over the next 5, 10 and 30 years, we have a great capacity to deliver this work across the whole of Wales. We've made an intentional decision that we're going to take the materials away and run a separate merchant DPS. The reason for that is so that we equal the playing field, so that the big boys who've got huge buying power don't have the don't have the betterment when it comes to tendering. So we're playing on, so the small guys have got an equal playing field on doing this. The intention again is that we will have whole Wales coverage. So housing associations and ultimately owner occupiers will be able to access the DPS and get support for the work that they want across the whole of Wales. And as I've said before, the aim is to grow the market. We recognise that at the moment there probably isn't enough capacity to deliver to this programme over the next 30 years, and we need to grow that over these next few years by not only offering work to people, but offering the skills and support that Wynn's just mentioned as well. Next slide, please, Susan. So just as an overview, we're going to set up a dynamic purchasing system, which gives us lots more benefits over a framework. One is that people can onboard whenever they want and whenever they're ready to do so, where a traditional framework is usually set for a number of years. And if once you're on, and if you miss the opportunity, then you've got to wait 5 years before that comes again. With the DPS, you can actually apply to come on at any time that you are ready and able to do that. The DPS will be split into geographical lots. So we'll have a number of geographical lots across Wales. There will be a range of contract values. So initially what members are suggesting is that the lowest will be under £10,000 and the highest will be over £2 million. So it really is, it does allow one-man bands and two-man bands to bid for this work, because there will be lower value contracts in here. We are in consultation with the housing sector at the moment about the work streams. Like I say, there will be lots of different work streams out there, one from installation of heat pumps, solar panels, all that kind of stuff, to the support for some of the clients to do those initial house checks that Alan mentioned, and offer support for liaison with tenants and various things like that. One of the things that has come out of the consultation is that people recognise that we don't want to put too many hurdles in place to get onto the DPS. So we don't want to be asking for reams and reams of accreditations that would stop smaller SMEs and micro businesses from applying onto this. So it's likely that the different tiers will have different entry requirements, on the understanding that the lower down, the one-man bands may have ambitions to get to bid for 250, £500,000 contracts, and would need time to get those accreditations over time. But there will be people at the higher level who are doing the bigger value contracts, where the expectation would be that you'd have all the accreditations in place. One of the big focuses of this is that companies that do apply and may not get on, or may need more support, we will capture those and we will pass them to another part of the project, who then can offer that help, support to get either the accreditations or the paperwork in place, or whatever it may be, so that in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years time, they can reapply again. And that's one of the benefits of the DPS. We're not going to be saying to companies, thanks for your time, we're not interested, come back in 5-10 years time. There will be active support in place to make sure that those companies do get the opportunity, when they feel that they're ready, to actually come back to the DPS and get on it and then get some work. And we're also mindful that to get some accreditation, sometimes you need work. So we are, there's every likelihood that people will be on the DPS without the accreditations, which would allow them then to put that work forward to be assessed. Next slide, please, Susan. We have put in place a number of stipulations. We are looking to make this electronic, and that's for a number of reasons. One, that we think it's more efficient. Two, it potentially allows us to get that work out to the smaller companies a lot easier and a lot quicker. As I've mentioned, bidders can join the DPS at any time. Initially, we are looking at a time frame of between 5 and 7 years, but we understand that this is a 30-year project, and hopefully if we get this set up right, so that you as the supply chain and contractors get the work out of it, and the clients get a good value and a good quality of work, then the likelihood is that this will grow and grow over this next 30 years. The way that it will work, the housing association, for example, will have a piece of work to do, they will put it through the DPS. That will ping off to anybody in that lot the information that's open to be bid to. And if you're on the lot, you will be offered work you will be offered the opportunity to bid for work. Now, obviously, we can't guarantee everybody's going to get work out of this. However, we do think that there will be enough work that this will be shared about, and there will be clear guidance on the RSL sector not to use the usual suspects, because if all we do is give work to people that already have work, then we're not going to grow the capacity, and in a number of years' time, then we'll get into trouble. So there will be there's a recognition and understanding that we want to bring new people into the market to give the RSLs that capacity in future to do as much work as they can. Next slide, Susan, please. So this is part of the promotion. We have got a meeting on Thursday where we're hoping to get sign off on the structure of the DPS. If that's signed off, then we will start building the DPS, and in the next few weeks we will start that will then go live. We'll do the obvious things about making it available through Sell to Wales. We'll be contacting trade bodies to let them know that it's live. We will be contacting members and RSLs to say who is on the list and making people aware that it's we're open for business. And I did put this on about Meet the Buyer events because although at the moment we can't do that because of the COVID restrictions, as I say, this is a long-term project. The DPS is open for business when it launches, but it's also open for business continually. And if a large contract suddenly gets put out in, for example, the southwest of Wales next July, then we will hopefully have the ability to go out and do some local promotion and invite people to come and talk to us. So that's not off the table. We're aware that we're restricted at the moment with how we can do this, but we will get the message out to as many people as we possibly can in as many ways as we possibly can. And one of the things that I would suggest is that my name's on there. We've got a dedicated manager called Jackie Leonard, and I would encourage people that if you're interested in finding more around the procurement, or if you just want to register an interest and tell us when it goes live, then if you contact Jackie, and Jackie is coordinating and pulling together those expressions of interest, and we'll be contacting people in future. Thanks very much.
That's fabulous, Glenn. Thanks very much. For our final presentation this afternoon, we're going to hear from Paul Gibson. So over to you, Paul.
Hi guys. Thanks very much for inviting me to say a few words today. Gibson's a part of Ciro's SME delivery team, and they've asked me today to talk about Gibson's journey from being a domestic gas heating company to now also being an energy efficiency installer, and to talk about becoming involved with the Optimised Retrofit programme. I'm going to try and aim most of what I say at all the small and medium-sized businesses, or the SMEs, who've taken some time off work today to tune in and to listen what is going on. So can I have the first slide, please? So for those of you who are hearing our name for the very first time, I'll give you a very brief overview of Gibson's. So we are a typical Welsh family-owned SME. So we've been around a long time, about 60 years. My father, George, became a self-employed plumber in the early 60s, and he moved into domestic gas heating in the 70s when it started to take off. Now, when he retired 30 years ago, domestic gas was all we did, and we only worked for private homeowners. Today, less than 5% of our business is domestic gas, and with the exception of Cardiff University and the NHS, we only work for Welsh housing associations and councils. So can I have the next slide, please? And here are some of the clients that we work for today, many of whom are part of the retrofit delivery team. So the next slide. So why did we change? Well, it was all about diversifying, not having all our eggs in one basket. About 10 years ago, Welsh Government began their RBED projects, installing some energy efficiency measures such as solar in social housing homes to help people suffering in fuel poverty. So we were working for the same housing associations. And so over a period of about 10 years, we slowly upskilled our existing workforce and took on new people with specialist skills to be able to install these new energy efficiency measures ourselves. At the start, it was just solar thermal and some solar PV, then voltage optimizers and external wall insulation. And over the years, the list of measures required has slowly increased. Next slide, please. Now remember, 10 years ago, we were only a gas heating installation company. Now, after a 10-year period of steady upskilling, we can offer our clients the wide range of energy efficiency services included in the list above. Solar, battery storage, heat pumps, voltage optimizers, etc. Just look down the list. Now, for all the SMEs listening in, the small SMEs, one-man bands, the main point to remember here is that you retrain or upskill at your own pace and when you can afford it. The domestic gas boiler industry is being phased out. So whether you want to or not, and let's be honest, nobody likes change, we all need to look to start diversifying our businesses. And I think energy efficiency is the way forward. Go to the next slide, please. And over time, with these new skills and new qualifications comes the dreaded accreditations. Now, these are some of our accreditations, but again, you only need to worry about becoming accredited for the new skill you are becoming qualified to deliver. Accreditations can be treated the same as qualifications. You only need them when work is in the offering and you have the time and the money available to invest. You don't need 100 qualifications and accreditations on day one. You build up your portfolio at a speed that suits you over time. Next slide, please. So, as previously mentioned by the other speakers, we are at the start of Welsh Government's Optimised Retrofit programme. We are at the moment at the thin end of the wedge. This is going to be huge. 1.4 million homes in Wales to be zero carbon by 2050. Welsh Government have already released 16 million funding at the end of last year, and they've just announced another 50 million this year. And personally, I think this will year on year will increase. And they want it delivered by Welsh SMEs. Now, a contract of this size would usually be awarded to a large national company, who would then come to us, the local Welsh SMEs, to help deliver the works. Now, we've all been there. They get us in, they beat us down on price. We take all the risk. They take the lion's share of any profit. Well, this is an opportunity to cut all that out. It gives us the chance to earn some money and invest in our own companies to grow and to upskill our workforce. Next slide, please. Now, Welsh Government and Sero recognise that there is a skills shortage. There are not enough apprentices, not enough trained engineers to deliver this vast amount of work. The good news is that all this is starting very, very slowly. They want one-man vans, small companies and larger companies to move away from whatever they're doing, domestic gas, domestic electric, and diversify at a rate that suits that particular company into one or more energy efficiency delivering measures. They want to support and mentor SMEs at the start of their journey, to provide help and advice with training and qualifications. And this is what Zero are helping deliver. So if you are a gas engineer, they want you also to be able to install heat pumps. If you're an electrician, a domestic electrician, they want you also to install solar PV with battery storage, etc., etc. The next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. So why get involved now? More importantly, at this early stage, why wouldn't you get involved? Why wouldn't you want to register your interest? By registering your interest now with Zero, you'll be kept informed of developments as this scheme begins to grow. Just to reiterate, this is very much at the start of the journey. Every self-employed, skilled engineer or company should be involved in any scheme that could provide more work in the future and give you the opportunity to upskill. Most good companies, and we all know this, are very busy at the moment, but doesn't it make sense just to keep your options open? Energy efficiency isn't the future, it's happening now. And if you are not involved yet, this is the perfect vehicle, the perfect project to become involved. And the fact that you have all made time today just to come in and listen to this event shows you are interested. So personally, my advice to you is go the extra mile now and get registered, get involved, and they'll keep you informed. Can I have my last slide, please? So my details are going to be on the next slide as well. But for any SMEs out there who go to Zero, by all means, but if you want to drop me a line personally and a telephone number or a question, then get in touch and I'll definitely get back to you and then we can have a chat. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul. That's, you know, just a great introduction, really, and a call out, really, for everybody to get involved. Like I said, this is an ideal opportunity for anyone, really, to ask questions to our presenters. Please do either raise your hand and I'll draw you in on the conversation, or do drop us a chat in the chat box and I can raise that question for you. All the contact details of the presenters are listed here. We'll keep that up whilst we have the Q&A, so you've got time to jot down those contact details. And again, really urge you to engage with the programme. And like I said, it's very much open. If you want to have that conversation outside of this forum, please use the emails that are attached here. I have got a point that was being raised by Howard Jacobson. Excuse me, it's more of a point probably to Glenn, just to let you know that they are involved in delivering virtual Meet the Buyer events with Sell to Wales. So I presume that's just looking at that as another option. I have got a question. Just a moment, from Peter. What is the timescale for the DPS, the planned date to actually start delivery of the work stream? So Glenn, are you able to answer that question for Peter?
Yeah, sure. So the initial sort of 1,700 properties that Alan mentioned at the start has pretty much all been procured now. We're hopeful that the DPS will be live sometime during the summer, with the intention that probably September, October we'll start coming out of it. So that's the timescale around when the next tranche of work will start coming out. So that's what we're looking to.
That's great, thanks. I'm only getting these chats, sorry, on my phone. So Alan, I presume you've answered Jean's question there about developments using AI and blockchain. If not, Jean C, are you available to come in and elaborate really on the question that you've posed?
Yes, absolutely. It's Jean Church.
Thanks.
The question is really, when we're looking to optimise opportunity for growth across the SME sector, we all know that the current procurement process is cumbersome, and it requires any organisation, if they're bidding through Sell to Wales, to often set up 4, 5, 6 different portal links in order to get through. What I was asking was, does the DPS cut through all of that? Is it a real-time data dynamic system that if I were an SME, I complete my details once, and then even if I apply for 6 or 7 disparate geographic opportunities, will I be required to complete my data 6 or 7 times?
Right. No. What we're aiming to do, and the clients are really keen about this, is that Chick will ask for those details once. You can then click select as part of the initial selection. We want to work in these 3 lots or those 4 lots or all of Wales. But the financial information will be held once, and then when the contracts come out, that we'd probably need to, one of the things that we're discussing on Thursday is how we refresh that, but certainly in the first 12, 24 months, as work comes out, that once you're on the DPS and have shown you accounts or whatever it is that we're going to ask for, for if Wales and West, for example, put out some work, then you won't need to provide that information to them again. It will already have been done by Chick at that initial stage. So we're trying to make this as simple as we possibly can. Because it is procurement, we do need an audit trail, and we will need to, ultimately, the RSLs will want to make sure that we've done an amount of due diligence. But the clear message from members that are part of this is that they want to reduce the bureaucracy as much as possible, but we've got to accept that there will be some. But no, the clear drive for this is you provide your information once and then that's it. Like I say, the likelihood is that we will need to recheck that again at some point in time.
Okay, may I just make a comment on that? Because if artificial intelligence is employed correctly, then you drive in that audit and governance transparency, and you can keep that live by the system generating the timeliness of any checks you want to carry out.
I'm not an expert in AI, but certainly one of the things that we are looking at is how we keep that data as live as possible. And if there's an opportunity to do it, then we'll certainly take that on board. And I'll mention that to the tech guys when I come off this.
Okay, happy to speak to you at any time in the future if you want to make reference. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jean. Thanks for fielding that as well. I'd like to bring Howell Davis in. Howell?
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I represent an external water installation installer. I've been speaking to Win in the background over the recent months, so nice to see you first time. We're a Welsh SME, 10 teams on the road, so still fairly small, who do a lot of work in England. And we've been accredited to PAS, so I'm glad somebody just brought up PAS, to install under the Green Homes Grant debacle, which recently ended in England. A lot of this work has been done by BEIS in England, apps developed, systems put in place to assess, to coordinate, partly in the transition to PAS, the latest PAS 2019. Has any kind of research been done into that, and has that been used? Perhaps a question for Alan, because they developed apps which are a disaster. They developed a pricing program which is going to be a complete and utter and mitigated disaster as a scheme. And I think if it hasn't been looked at as an example of how not to do it, then I think, because all this came out of each home counts review, ultimately, which is where all the retrofit coordination, assessment, all this is being driven in through BEIS. But I think in Wales, we seriously need to learn. If we haven't already, perhaps I'm teaching Granny to suck the proverbial egg here, but if it hasn't been used, then I think it's something that needs to be taken very squarely into account before we, develop this great program in Wales.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. the whole home survey and the pathways process is designed to be aligned with PAS 2030 and PAS 2035. I see Jason in the chat has alluded to that and to the training around PAS 2035. That it's all very well rushing into having apps for this and apps for that, but if you don't have the required training of the appropriate people, then the whole thing kind of falls down. And also, as you mentioned, it's very much this is not complete blue sky thinking. There have been schemes in the past that I alluded to, kind of measures-led approaches, where it may be that a certain amount of grant funding was allocated towards a kind of arbitrary target of maybe taking everything up to a certain EPC rating or something like that. So a certain amount of money was thrown at certain measures, whether they be energy efficient light bulbs, going back, if we go back far enough, then external wall insulation, and sort of take your pick really. So there has been a lot of schemes in the past. There's been a lot of unintended consequences, and a lot of them, to be quite honest, they cost more money to put right than they did to install in the first place. So yeah, that's a lot of the risk that this process is being developed to mitigate.
Yeah, I think one more was alluded to. I appreciate the risk and the unintended consequences and the crossover of EMs causing problems. I get all that. What I'm more alluding to is how the process is managed. Are the people in place to handle the assessments, to handle the paperwork, to handle the pricing? Because I said this is where this whole scheme in England fell down massively, and it's a Welsh SME. We suffered because of that. But I just think it's one that we need to be aware of, and it's the execution of how all this. How this happens and how the work gets from source to the installer. But thanks for your input.
Fully agree with your points there, and yeah, that brings it back to skills and training. And I think often when we talk about skills and training and performance gaps, the natural place people look first is at the trades, but actually it's a much broader set of skills that are needed here. And that comes into a lot of the job descriptions that come under PAS 2030 and 2035. The assessors, coordinators, advisors, all of those, they've been kind of identified, but in most cases there's training available, but it's not necessarily. There's a difference between training and qualification. There's some learning that people can do if they're interested, but in terms of actual, really nailing down what the actual requirements are for people to operate in the kind of design, specification, project management areas, that's just as important as the trade skills. And the difference being where Wynne mentioned kind of with the trades, it's perhaps evolution, not revolution, that we're adding to existing trade skills rather than reinventing the wheel and starting again from scratch. I'd say there's more of a glaring skills gap in the design, the coordination, the project management skills. So absolutely 100% right to flag that as at least an equal need, if not greater. So yeah, we need to get people qualified. To avoid, as you say, debacles like the Green Homes Grant, which is, I think, less than 6 months that lasted before it was. It
cost more money to be involved with than any margin made out of doing the work in the end. So it was, from a 3 billion spend, headlock 2 billion down to a 300 million within 3 months they chopped. And yeah, there we are. My personal axe to grind. But thanks for your answer.
That's great. We've got Howard Jacobson from Business Wales with us. Howard, you've mentioned a couple of things and opportunities. Can you come in really and just discuss really that potential collaboration or opportunity with us?
Hello, how are you? Hi. Yeah, so I didn't want to sort of come charging in. So there's a couple of things that we may be able to help with this project. And one is obviously something you just mentioned before, because I messaged you about virtual events. So we've put on something like 45 virtual events in lockdown across a whole range of different topics, including construction. So if you're looking to put on a virtual event is something we can help with in conjunction with Sail to Wales. So working with them very, very closely to engage SMEs. So that was the first thing. So that's an offer that we're really happy. I mean, I don't want to tread on anyone's toes here, but that's obviously an offer that we can give you. We don't. There's no cost involved. Everything we do is free for Welsh businesses anyway. And the other thing, of course, is that when it comes to tender stage, perhaps we can help SMEs, because obviously there's quite a few SMEs on here and maybe one-man bands who, as soon as you hear the word procurement, it frightens them off. So there's lots of free support that we can give them when the right timing is there to do that. Maybe, I don't know how you're going to put out these tenders, but maybe we could put on a live tender event, for instance, to help businesses to bid for this work, and then we then offer one-to-one support for them as well. So just a couple of offers there for you, if appropriate, to help SMEs. Obviously, SMEs have to be based within Wales and be an SME to qualify for that support, but certainly be happy to offer it.
Yeah, I think yes, please is the answer there. It's a collaboration, and part of that is because through collaborating, that's the best way of avoiding kind of the pitfalls that have been that we come across in the past, and the lessons that have been learned. So if you want to drop us an email, or if we can take your email down at the end, then sounds like that'd be helpful to small businesses.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think that'd be a great collaborative opportunity. So really appreciate your help there, Howard. Thank you very much. We've got a couple of things on the chat. Somebody has shared a presentation or a podcast that was released yesterday on PAS 2035 with Colin King, and there's a bit more information. So with things like that, what we'll do is I'll grab that information from the chat and circulate it to everybody following the event, so you'll have your own chance, and you won't lose some of the links that are being shared within the chat. I suppose, going on from what Howard was saying, that obviously we're supporting Welsh companies, SMEs, micros, and you know, that is our key ambition of today, to get people to engage with the programme. Somebody has asked, is the scheme open for other companies outside of Wales, or is it just for Welsh companies?
So the driver is for Welsh companies. From a procurement point of view, at the moment, we can't exclude other companies from applying. There are certainly some member organisations in the short term. I was speaking to one of the members up in North Wales who said at the moment there is no, but I can't remember what, there was a work stream, and there was no Welsh companies locally could do the work. So she was having to bring people across from Liverpool, and she said that's likely in the short term, but her ambition is at some point that will end. So I would expect that those initially RSLs that border England may need to use some skills from across the border, but the intention of this over the 30 years is that the capacity will grow where there's enough local companies that they don't need to. But we couldn't exclude, we couldn't put on, you can't apply to come onto the list, and as we can't say that we don't want any of the big boys can't apply. But the driver of this is the SME sector, micro businesses, and growing that part of the sector. It is likely we might get some of the big boys that apply for it, but we're trying to structure it in a way, and the RSLs are really clear that that's not where this is going to be targeted. But from a procurement point of view, we can't exclude them because we'd be open to challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. Just a point, you know, again, please do engage with us, send your questions through. I don't have many more new ones coming through. Please put up your hand if you've got a burning question or just anything that you want to ask our speakers. I want to just ask you, Wyn, just to perhaps elaborate that somebody's got a foot in both camps, being an RSL, but also with an in-house team which are looking to upskill. Will there be assistance in getting the required accreditation to develop the in-house team? So could you just elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Yes, indeed, absolutely. The training will be open to SMEs, micro SMEs, the direct workforces. I think the best way, and we've having some discussions already with some RSLs, is looking at specifically what they want to develop their in-house team in and where their capabilities are. Some are making a mixture with a supply chain and what they see as in-house expertise. So I think what I would say is if they contact me directly, we can work with them to look at a specific training program and link them to the right people to the training card.
That's fantastic. So again, just to reiterate, please do take down these email addresses. That's the direct link to all the presenters today to ask those questions, and and just make it applicable to your business. That is an opportunity really to reach out, so we can get as much engagement really as possible. Again, just a final call to any other questions. I don't have anything new coming up, so please give me something now. I'll give it a moment just to give people the opportunity. Is there any final remarks from the presenters that we would like to leave people with?
Just for any final thoughts, I was going to add to Wynn's answer there actually about in-house teams that for upskilling, and that's that there's as I said before, really about the sort of project coordination, clerk of works type role, and the kind of in-house management. That's an ideal role which most RSLs will be performing. So there is definitely a need to upskill, even those RSLs that don't have in-house trades teams, in terms of procurement, management, coordination, and the clerk of works type role. There's definitely upskilling that's required there as well. So there'll be things put in place there.
Just another quick comment on that. I was on a meeting a few weeks ago where Welsh Government were really keen to sort of bend training budgets into this once we know what the requirements are. So again, part of this is to understand what the skills gap are or what the skills needs are going forward, and then influence that spending. We have got colleges as part of the consortium who are picking up these messages. But again, this is a huge project for the whole of Wales, and a very ambitious project. And I think one of the things that we're all really clear about is that it will start slow. There might not be huge changes in the first 12 months, but the ambition is there that over the next 2, 3, 5, 30 years, things and opportunities will grow in this field.
Kat, there's one question in the chat as well about PAS. Yes, we did overlook it, but there is training available through a number of recognised training bodies. Again, use the email and we can link you into the specific ones. The difficulty at the moment, there isn't Welsh Government funding specifically for PAS, although we may be opening up personal learning accounts which may be able to supply some sort of funding to that. But if the person wants to contact me directly, I can link them into the people delivering those particular PAS courses.
Fantastic, thanks, Wynn. Okay, I haven't got any further questions or any other hands up. Jason has mentioned something about it being a very short time frame. Any work started after the 1st of July 2021 should be carried out with a PAS certification. That's only 3 weeks away. Is there any comments on that question? Or
I mean, certainly the discussions that we've had around accreditations, PAS 30 will be a requirement, and for those that want to do are interested in the larger contract value lots, we would need to see that they're working towards PAS 35. But we're also mindful that to get some of the accreditations, they need the work, which is why we're looking at those smaller values and hopefully be able to show that some companies that haven't got it have started a project with us as part of that assessment.
thank you. Okay, I haven't got any further questions to the speakers, so I think, you know, what for me, this is key really. It's just a fantastic opportunity. You know, Wales is predominantly made up of SMEs and micros. That's our lifeblood within the construction sector. You know, and this is a perfect opportunity. You know, just to reiterate, this is the beginning. This is the start of our conversations. So you will have all of the email addresses, and that is very much the intention, is to continue that engagement. Just to, even if you need reassurance, a part of the process, whatever that might be, do get in touch. It leaves me really just to thank our excellent speakers today. So many thanks, Alan, Wyn, Glenn and Paul. Very much appreciate your in-depth contributions, and really look forward to the next event, and hopefully we'll have further engagement for everybody that's attended. We will be sharing the slides with you, and I will also share the email addresses. So very much just look forward to working with you all. So many thanks and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all.